Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hash It Out Show. I'm your host, Jared Boyd, also known as JB, your sports guy. I'm joined by my good friend that you can catch on Crescent City Sports, the one, the only, Mr. VK Jones. VK, how you doing, my friend?
What's going on, man? It's good to have everybody over here tonight for this big show. We got a huge one tonight here. Just like, share, tag, subscribe to JB Your Sports Guy and also Vashawn K. Jones on YouTube and also Vashawn K. Jones and Vashawn Jones and also Jared JB Boyd on Facebook. We appreciate you joining us. We got some big guests coming up tonight. We got some NFL draft coverage, and we got a very, very special guest coming up later on in the show.
Yes, we do. Before we get into that, we have our good friend also that you can catch on Crescent City Sports, Mr. George Peppers. George, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. It's just Christmas Eve for football in France for the draft, and as VK said, piggybacking, we have a very big show tonight. Two very special guests joining us. I can't wait. Let's rock.
Let's do it. Later on tonight, we will have a WNBA champion and LSU legend, and now she's an assistant coach at Western Kentucky University. That will be Miss Temeka Johnson. But first, we have Mr. Eric Asher from Inside New Orleans Sports joining us to talk about the NFL draft that is happening tomorrow. Eric Asher, how you doing? Thank you for joining us.
Doing fine. How you doing, fellas?
Great.
Good.
Good. So, Eric, the draft is tomorrow. And the New Orleans Saints pick 29th in the first round.
Yes.
We've heard defensive tackle. We've heard a wide receiver. We've heard even a running back just in case Alvin Kamara is not able to go if he is suspended. What have you heard about the Saints' first round draft pick?
Well, it's the week of misinformation, right? Everything you hear, you do not believe this week, and that's been pretty much the way it's been for a long, long time in the NFL. So I wouldn't put too much stock in what's been said so far, but I think we look at the needs of the team, right? What have they done in the offseason? What do they need? And then what will they do post-draft with the $14 million that they have available to them to be able to sign veterans? My guess is what I've said all along is it's about the big man. They made some moves within the defensive tackle position in free agency, but they still need to backfill that position. They've got two guards that are really on 1-year deals right now, so that's another position where they need to upgrade. You mentioned the Alvin Kamara situation. They're going to have to get a running back in this draft, and then of course with Marcus May and his possible suspension for the DUI, they may have to look at the safety position. They've got Abram now as a box safety in terms of maybe a backup, but they may have to go young with another safety. So lucky for them, where they pick, it looks like, again, big men may fall to them. So, again, they don't have to reach or possibly, as Mickey Loomis likes to do, package picks and move up.
My next question involves Tyjae Spears. Tyjae Spears had a great year.
Yes.
And in front of a national audience against USC, had a great game, over 20 yards rushing. The Senior Bowl, he was the most talked about player at the Senior Bowl. Where is it most likely Tyjae Spears will end up, and in which round?
Right. Well, a lot of folks have him at maybe a second rounder to third round. The depending on how the draft will fall, again, because this is a excellent running back class.
Yes.
And I mean, depending on what you're looking for in terms of running back that's going to fit what you need on your team, there's something for everyone. So my guess is that probably third round. If he gets in the fourth round, he's a super steal, but probably third round. And I'm telling you, everything, if you want to hear what I hear, everything I hear is the New Orleans Saints love him. Okay. Mm-hmm. Will he be there in the third round? Will they go for another position in the third round? We don't know. But most people believe third round pick, and that again, he's in that Saints cloud in the third round.
Before I pass it on to VK, we've been hearing a lot of quarterback talk. We've heard Bryce Young is going first. Mm-hmm. Before that, he wasn't going first with C.J. Stroud. Now we're hearing C.J. Stroud might be dropping. Will Levis might be rising up. Anthony Richardson might go second. It's quarterback chaos going on. What do you think about this?
I think it's always, like I said, the week of misinformation. For Will Levis to go from, again, the guy was going to be maybe the fourth quarterback selected to the first, I'm not buying it. Matter of fact, if Carolina wants to do that, please do.
Yeah.
I think, again, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, two best quarterbacks in the draft. I'm guessing that possibly C.J. Stroud is on the radar of the Carolina Panthers. And the only reason I say that is, again, maybe the size differential between him and Bryce Young might be the difference. You look at both guys. They've had great careers with great programs. They played with great players. Will Levis has kind of come up, but again, I think that's a lot of misinformation right now. Anthony Richardson, I still think he's a project player. He's got everything you want in a quarterback. He just didn't do it on a consistent basis at Florida. So again, that might be a guy that may be the fourth or fifth quarterback pick. I still like Hendon Hooker, but he's a guy that most people thought was a second rounder. Now everybody's talking about first round, might not get past the Vikings. I thought that he might be a nice player at 40 for the Saints, but now that they've got Derek Carr, they may not go in that direction. When it's all said and done, Hooker may be one of the better quarterbacks in the draft because of his experience. But again, obviously the injury shortened his season this year.
I was about to ask you right quick, due to the ACL tear, will these teams take a chance on Hendon Hooker in the first round?
I think, look, here's the deal. You want a fifth-year option on a quarterback, okay? And that's the key. The fifth-year option gives you that extra year to be able to hold on to that quarterback, especially if he doesn't play right out the box, means they have to sit a year or two just to be able to learn the NFL game. He's 25 years old. There was a report today that said he will be ready for training camp and he'll be ready for game one. So, again, we'll see how that plays out. We've seen plenty of guys come back from that injury and come back from that injury strong. So if you like him as a quarterback, I don't see why you don't pick him in the first round.
Eric, you took the words out of my mouth when you went ahead and said Hendon Hooker. That was going to be my first question. I wanted to ask you about the quarterbacks, especially the diamond in the roughs. One of them is Hendon Hooker. The other, Stetson Bennett. Yes. You see either of these quarterbacks being not just picked up and drafted, but at least getting an opportunity, not just with the Saints, but any other team, because we know the Saints do have David Carr for a good little while, but I always said the Saints need to get somebody young that can be the future, that can carry things out when David Carr finally leaves.
Right. In a situation with Carr, he's on a 2-year deal, basically. There's an out on the contract after 2 years. If the Saints are committed, and they are based on the money they gave him, right? Okay, they're committed to him. Jameis Winston is on a 1-year deal. Are you looking to be able to bring in a quarterback to be able to groom behind him? If that's the case, and they feel like that then the value is there, I can see them doing that. But I just don't think they'll do it in the first round because there's such a need at defensive tackle. There's such a need at defensive end. If he was to be there at 40, I could see them making a move there. But again, as I mentioned earlier, to me, quarterbacks, you need that fifth-year option. Are the Saints willing to be able to do that? But then what message does that send to Derek Carr if you're signing him to this lucrative deal? Then you come back again in the first draft after you sign him and you draft a quarterback in the first round. Puts a little pressure there. I don't know if they want that controversy at this point. As far as Stetson Bennett goes, that's a guy that you'll probably will go in the 6th, 7th round, who again has played. He's won everywhere he's been. A lot of people want to put a knock on him because he played with great players at Georgia. You're going to play with great players in the NFL. It'll be interesting to see again where he goes, but I think he's going to probably go in somewhere between the 6th and 7th round. And I would not take the Saints out of the mix there. Okay, they don't have they don't have a 6th round pick. They have 2 7th round picks and 2 5th round picks. And Mickey Loomis, if he wants some player, he's going to go there. I can see them maybe taking a flyer on a late round quarterback, McKee, maybe out of Stanford, or maybe a Stetson Bennett. My personal favorite in the draft is Hendon Hooker. I would love to see Hendon Hooker as a New Orleans Saint. I just think that with the signing of Derek Carr, they're going to go in the direction of protecting him with the offensive line, or again stopping the run on the defensive line.
Okay. Now looking at the whole draft overall, two-part question. One, which team do you think really has a great situation? The other, what player do you think is a real diamond in the rough in the draft that people are not talking about?
Right. I like diamond in the rough. I like the former LSU defensive tackle, went to Baylor, Ika. Okay. I think that a lot of people are kind of sleeping on him a bit. And I think that he could be a defensive tackle that could be a physical defensive tackle, run stuffer that could really change the way that a defense can play. As far as teams go, look, anytime you're in the top 5 of the draft, you having an opportunity to pick in that top 5 in every single round, you're going to have an opportunity to pick some really good players. Carolina is in a good position. Obviously, you look across the board, Chicago, etc. You're going to be able to pick up some really good players there. Again, it comes down to your player personnel department on what they're looking for. But again, if you're in that top 5, you're going to come out with some pretty good players in this draft.
Before I pass this on to George Peppers with his round of questions, I gotta ask you this a little bit about what about looking at the Philadelphia Eagles, looking at their situation. It's looked like it's a really good situation coming off the Super Bowl, especially their draft pick, but also the deal that they had with Jalen Hurts.
Right.
Do you think the Baltimore Ravens and any other teams that took notice why Lamar Jackson has not been signed and is like, okay, watch this, and it's like, boom, the deal right there for Jalen, and it's like, all right, Baltimore, you need to do something, or somebody need to make a move on Lamar Jackson because the tone is already set.
Right. I think the market is set now. I think when you look at Jalen Hurts, what he did with his contract, and deservedly so, right, based on what he's been able to do and turn that franchise around, I think the market is now set for Lamar Jackson, okay? I don't think Lamar Jackson is going to take a nickel less than what Jalen Hurts is getting, okay? So from that standpoint, it's either sign him or trade him. And we'll see again, that may happen in this draft. They may find a partner they want to go with, but it's in Baltimore's best interest to sign this kid and get and kind of move off of it. As far as the Philadelphia Eagles, come on, you're a Super Bowl champion. You have the 10th overall pick in the draft, okay, based on that trade with the Saints. They have their general manager in the last 2 years in the transformation of the Philadelphia Eagles has done a miraculous job. First of all, going up front and building up the offensive and defensive lines. Very physical on both sides. Again, trusting Jalen Hurts to put him in the game and then allowing him to be able to utilize his talents, be able to run, pass, change the dynamics of that offense. Now that a lot of people are talking about Robinson, the kid out of Texas, maybe being their pick at 10 and putting him in the backfield with Jalen Hurts, that could be an incredible duo in that backfield there. So, if you look at one of the general managers who's done a great job in the NFL, look no further than what they're doing in Philadelphia.
Go ahead, George.
First of all, Eric, thank you for joining us. My first question for you, and it's in reference to the Saints. And look, 29 and 40, it's pretty much a close-knit area as far as talent gap. There really isn't much of one. The Saints have 2 spots in the first 40. The names I've been hearing, Osiris Torrance out of Florida, the former UL kid, who's a big guy that can move. But the guy I'm fascinated with, and look, I'm going to eliminate my fandom, but Maisie Smith out of Michigan, 6'3", 335. A guy like that is not supposed to do what he can do.
Right.
The guy is athletic and is outstanding, and it's both in positions of need. I think my first question to you is in reference to those 2 guys. What are your evaluations of those 2? And secondly, do you think the Saints at 29 sit, or do you think they move? Because you know their DNA.
Yes.
Mickey Loomis is not a dude that sits still.
Sure.
Do you think they move, or do you think they're not going to move back? I don't think they'll do that. I actually have a fearless prediction of moving up if they do, if a certain player slips. And the guy I'm thinking about is Miles Murphy out of Clemson, if he slips into the 20s. What are your thoughts?
Well, George, it's like you're reading a script, okay? I love Mozzie Smith, okay? I think he should be their first-round pick if he's there. I think he's a game changer. He's a guy you can put in that rotation with Saunders and Shepard, who they just picked up in free agency. And I think he solidifies, again, the interior of that defense. I also like Osiris Torrance. Okay. The question is, again, I don't think both of those guys are going to be there in the second round. So you're going to have to make a choice. I do think both guys could be there at 29. Now, we know that Loomis is impatient. He even mentioned it today, that he'd rather move up than move down because they don't want to move down for a lesser player. I don't necessarily buy that. I think teams have players in a cloud. And if you got a situation where you have somebody's trying to get in front of another team and wants to take your spot, as long as you're not moving back too far, maybe 3, 4, 5 spots, and you get your same player and you can pick up an extra pick, then you do so. Okay. The Saints have gone the opposite direction. They've taken their middle round picks and given them up to be able to move up. Well, what happens? Yep. You lose out on potential stars. You lose out on guys that become potential starters for you in that 3rd, 4th, and 5th round, and guys that, again, can be the mainstays for you. Look no further than what they did this year. They picked up Saunders. They picked up Shepard. Both guys were 3rd-round picks. Both guys were 3rd-round picks and going in their second contract, and then they gave him a big deal. So I think that Loomis will stay with his MO. He's only going to move up, not move back. And I'm telling you, George, if the Saints could come away with one or those two players, either Torrance or Smith, then that is an excellent first round. If they come out with both of those players, okay, at 29 and 40, man, I tell you what, that is a great draft. And let me add this before you guys move on to another question. This has to be a 2017 draft. The Saints need to hit on their draft like they did in 2017. They need starters. They need stars. They need to backfill that roster, but they also need some players, especially at positions of need, that can come in and plug and play immediately. So again, this is not a situation where you say you're only a few players away. They need guys that, again, can backfill that roster, but guys that can start immediately for them as well.
When you look at this draft, and we talk about players we love and players we want and everything else. Look, we all root for the Saints. We live in New Orleans and everything else. Give me a head scratcher player or position that would scratch. Like if Mickey Loomis makes a pick tomorrow, that'll be like, okay, what are you thinking here? I mean, Mickey's done it, but when you look at this draft, we talk about who we like, but give me a player that you think that would go against the Saints MO and have you thinking, why did they go this route?
Were you talking about a player that they may draft or position? Because I think position,
may draft. May draft or position.
Right, position would be center. Again,
okay.
They're set at center. McCoy has become one of the better centers in the NFL. That would be a position that I would be very, very surprised that they would draft. Look, they need another linebacker. Demario Davis is getting older. They are set at corner for the most part, but you can never have too many corners in the NFL. They need safety help because of the possibility of May being suspended. They need wide receiver. They could use another tight end because, again, Troutman is not developed. And now they really don't want to use they're going to use Taysom as a jack of all trades, but not just a tight end. They need a running back because of the situation with Alvin Kamara. And again, we can make a case for them having a young quarterback as well. I think really when you look at it, the tackles right now you would say are set, but you've got Penning, who's had 2 surgeries on his feet since he was drafted, and Ramczyk has to sit out half the practices during the week just to make it on the roster for Sunday. So maybe you say, okay, tackle might be there, but to me, it would be a head scratcher if they went for center.
Okay. My last question before I turn it over back to Jared. You mentioned tight ends. A kid I like is Donnell Washington out of Georgia. Big guy, incredible hands, underrated speed. I mean, he's got 4.5 speed. And people are going to say, well, he played at Georgia and Stetson Bennett and all these grade A talent and whatnot. But as you mentioned, Adam Trotman has not developed. I think it would behoove the Saints to grab an insurance policy. I think this is a guy, if our scenario about Osiris and Maisie doesn't pan out, if we only could get one, I think Washington would not be a bad consolation prize at 40.
My feeling is that George, and I've talked about this on the radio and TV shows. Derek Carr is coming in and he needs veteran presence in his receiving core. They tried to
Yes,
get
sir.
Foster Moreau. Okay, obviously, unfortunately, the Hodgkins situation. He may be a Saint, but it's going to be a while. I would think that they want to go into they may hold off on drafting a tight end only because maybe they're going after a veteran tight end with that $14 million they got to spend after the draft. And I think that again,
Mhm.
you want a guy that knows the NFL, that knows how to run routes. You don't want to have another young player. The one thing about when you look at their receiving core, I'm talking about tight end, wide receiver, they're young. If Michael Thomas doesn't play this year, you're still dealing with guys that are 1, 2, 3, 4 years in the league. So as great of a talent that Washington is, and he is, I would think that they would try to get Derek Carr veterans now at this point to be able to augment what he has on the roster already.
And
Eric,
and before you go ahead, Jared, I'm gonna ask this one question. I'm gonna let Jared finish off. I want to ask you this, Eric. What is your thoughts of Jalen Carter, of everything that happened to him and stuff like
Right.
that, and he's still slated to be a top 5 pick in the draft, and it seemed like all the offseason stuff might have not affected him as much as everybody think it is. What's your thoughts about that?
If you a dog, you a dog, and that's the bottom line. Okay, they know the outside, all the outside stuff, everything that went off the field is not going to stop them from picking this guy. He is too great of a talent for teams to be able to pass him. This is in the NFL of 10 years ago. They're going to do if they see a guy that's got a unique skill set like he does, he's going to get drafted. I mean, look, a lot of people had him going, maybe first or second, right? He's not dropping past the 5th or 6th pick in this draft. There's no way in the world.
Yeah,
Eric, we'll get you
right.
out of here on this last question. My question deals with Keyshawn Boutte.
Mm-hmm.
He was supposed to be a first-round pick. He didn't have the type of season that he wanted to have this year at LSU.
Right.
Does Keyshawn make it before the end of the 3rd round?
And I tell you what, that's a tough question. If you look at his tape from his first couple of years at LSU, obviously you say he's a first-round pick. Supposedly he had a child. Maybe he was distracted this year. Maybe there's some off the field stuff that maybe we don't know about. But I was surprised he was not ready for his pro day. Okay, I mean that's what surprised me. I get it. Maybe again you weren't ready for the combine and you're waiting to run and do, but he wasn't ready for the pro day. And that's on your own turf. That's with your own coaches. That's where you shine. And I think that a lot of teams are going to take a look at it. Now, look, some teams will ignore what happened in this last year and say that's about the quarterback, that's about the offense, and the kid is too good of a talent to pass up. But again, you look at all of the measurables that they went through within the combine and the drills. He just didn't measure up to what he was at LSU. I think that if he gets his head right, he'll be a steal for anybody that's out there. But the question is he ready? Now, look, professional football, it's a job. It's different than college. We know that. Maybe this is a situation you get him with the right coach, the right place, and then he excels again because he's got the talent, but he's an enigma because all of a sudden he goes from a guy that was a can't miss, maybe top 5 pick to a guy that may be an afterthought. But one thing we know about LSU receivers, once they get in the NFL, look how many receivers again that played at LSU, maybe didn't get the ball a lot, they get in the NFL and they excel. So if you want to use that as a template, then there's hope for Keyshawn Boutte.
I hope Keyshawn Boutte gets the opportunity more than anything else. I think it was disappointing, but I think the fact of the matter is I think Keyshawn Boutte had a lot on his plate.
Probably
and
did.
a lot of pressure because of the fact of the matter is at first he wasn't too fond of Coach Kelly, but then he turned around and things got together for him. And then that one big rumor story came out before the SEC championship, a little bit after the SEC championship, and it seemed like to him, and I don't know what happened at the time, and thank goodness other investigations came out that anything happened with it. but it seemed like something happened that he had to be wound up pushed to go ahead and then, hey, I gotta get up out of here. And it's like, wow, it's a lot on his plate, but also honestly, if he gets the opportunity, if I'm Keyshawn Booty, I would check into counseling to get himself together, because that's a lot. That's almost screams mental health or anything else, because that's a lot on his plate that he had to face, and a lot of things in your head that it's hard to handle. So
There's
I
a lot of
really think
indecision. Do I want to come back? Do I not want to come back? I'm coming back. No, I'm not coming back. I'm going to sit out the year and I'm going to work out for the year. He's probably got a lot of people in his ear right now.
Probably so.
That's probably so.
He needs to find the right team with the right coaching staff that can get his head right so that he's ready to play football again.
Agreed.
Most definitely. Eric Asher of Inside New Orleans Sports. When can people catch your radio show and your TV show?
4 to 6 weekdays, 106.1 FM Nash Icon here in New Orleans. iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app, Spotify, and is the home base for the podcast. And then you can catch me on TV. That is on Pelican Sports Television on Friday and Saturday evenings, and on WLA TV on Thursday at 1 o'clock, Thursday at 6 o'clock, and then Friday at 10 o'clock at night. That's all PM.
All right.
And Eric
Asher.
We got to ask you this one thing. What does the New Orleans Pelicans has to do in the off season to get better? We wanted to ask you this since you're on here.
Yes.
Athletic bigs. They need athletic bigs. They don't have it. Okay. And then shooters. They need shooters. They also have to figure out, what are they going to do? Are they going with a point forward, or are they going with point guards? They have two players that played point forward, and Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson for them. Is that what they're going to do going forward, or are they going with a legitimate point guard? But they got to get shooters, and they got to get an athletic bigs. Athletic bigs that can step out and shoot the three. And then I'll say the last thing, what they need. Dogs with rings, okay? All right? Look, they got embarrassed in Golden State by Draymond Green. And Draymond Green said that, again, they weren't cut like that. They need some guys in that locker room that can, look, they got nice guys like Nance and C.J. McCollum that are trying to lead by example, right? Garrett Temple. They need some guys that, again, that are rough and are physical, that can be an enforcer for them, but also in that locker room that can get the attention of these young guys and to get them to play. And the other thing they need more than anything else, they got to keep Zion in shape. There's no reason for the guy, when he's injured, to fall out of shape like he does. That is a problem within the Pelicans, within the inner circle of Zion Williamson and Zion Williamson himself. He's too great of a talent to continue to allow himself that when he gets injured to get out of shape like he is. If he's playing, maybe the Pelicans are still playing today. But again, that injury once again set him back. But again, they have to get bigger. They have to have better shooters, and they got to get some guys that have won something, that have that dog mentality that they're not going to lose.
I think you made a good point, Eric, on the point guard spot. That's the one big thing. I think Jared was saying. I was saying too, because I think C.J. McCollum has played out of position since he has got here. So I think they didn't.
You can't put that pressure on him.
Yes,
I agree. And look, is Kyra Lewis the guy? I mean, we don't know. Is Dyson Daniel going to be the guy? We don't know. We do know that when Ingram and Zion played that point forward position, that offense clicked. But is that what they're going to do? And then how do they coexist on the court together? So it's going to be interesting to see again what they do in the offseason. I know David Griffin said it's going to be fringe. I think it's more than fringe. They have to make some deals to really push this team to the next level.
Eric Asher, thank you for joining us on this show, and we will definitely bring you back on in the future.
Gentlemen, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much. Y'all have a great evening. Enjoy the draft.
Definitely.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Right.
Eric Asher, everybody. Well, before we bring in our next guest, he said a lot of key interesting stuff. A lot of it, especially with that first pick of the draft. What do you think the Saints are going, VK?
Man, it's wide open to me, man, because they got to go with what they need, and they're gonna go to the defense. I think I wouldn't be surprised they go defense and pick up that the defensive tackle or whatever they need in the draft. I wouldn't be surprised at that. To build depth. And later on in the rounds, maybe they go get Tajay Spears, probably. You know what I'm saying? But they need to really get what they need, and that's what the Saints need to go after. But it's gonna be an interesting draft. I would love for them late in the rounds or second round to get him to Hooker. I would love for the Saints to get him. I would love that. But we'll see what happens. But I think the Saints are going to aim for what they need, and they need to get what they need. Not some kind of question mark pick of Mickey Loomis. That's what we don't want. 2017 draft, like Eric said, would be the kind of mentality the Saints need.
George Peppers.
As far as what I think the New Orleans Saints are going to do, look, we all know that the Saints never sit still. All right. With that being said, for me, I've got to go Macy Smith. I mean, that dude is just incredibly talented. 6'3", 335. The dude's a dog, and that dude is just that good. And look, I know I'm a Michigan fan. I get it unapologetically. But I think Macy Smith's the guy. If you're sitting at 29, do I think the Saints sit there? No. I think they're going to move up. I feel like they're going to move up for a guy that's going to fall. The one guy I don't want to see them get is Brian Bracey from Clemson. I don't want him. I know he's a position of need because he's an end rusher. I don't want that guy. That's Peyton Turner part two. I don't want that dude if I'm a Saints fan. But if I'm sitting put, I would not be upset if Osiris Torrance is there at 29 because it's another position of need because of VK's favorite player, Andres Pete. You know, um, I would go Osiris. I would go
You
Osiris
need, you need
Torrance
to keep
at
that man
29.
name out my mouth, dog.
I know.
They.
I had to, dog.
Oh man.
I had to. But no, Osiris Torrance, the thing with Osiris is he's athletically gifted to win because he's 340. He needs to drop a good 10 to 15, and he'll be an elite guard. But the Saints do need guard. Let's look at Cesar Ruiz, and I'm a Michigan fan again, but Cesar has been an absolute colossal flop at the guard position. All right, let's call it for what it is, gentlemen. And Andrews Pete is not what y'all think he is. So I would not be upset if they go interior line, but my official pick would be Maisie Smith. If they stay at 29, they won't. They'll move.
All right. George Peppers. We're gonna bring you back in a little bit, all right, my friend?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, George. All right. Well, our next guest was a star player at Bonneville High School.
Yep.
And then,
She coming in with confidence. That's what I'm talking about.
then went to LSU and became a legend as he was the point guard running the show.
Yep.
Then got drafted, went to the WNBA, won a championship. Now she's coaching. Started coaching in high school, and now she's at the college ranks at Western Kentucky. I guess Temeka Johnson. Temeka, how you doing?
I'm well. How about you?
I am good. Before I get to my first question,
Okay.
this is our first time meeting, me and Temeka. But Temeka stayed in West Campus Apartments, and I did also. So,
I'm kind of nervous about this story.
my question is, do you remember your neighbors across the street, Raymond and Todd?
Yes.
Okay, that was my boys. Now, when did you decide that you wanted to become a coach?
It comes with the territory, honestly. I'm the point guard. I've been the coach on the floor my entire career. But if I'm being honest, I never really wanted to coach. I wanted to have my own facility and be able to give back to the game. I knew I wanted to be around the game and give back to it, but our life was always on the go so much. So I wanted to actually have a life within a life at some point. But God told me that I was needed on this side of, on those side of the lines, and I'm going in the direction and the path that He's leading me in. But I honestly didn't want to. I was just like, man, I love the game. I love giving back to the game. But I kind of wanted to have my own time to be able to do things. But, tell God your plans and watch Him laugh. It's kind of like one of them situations. But now that I'm doing it, I absolutely enjoy it. Like I have more good days for sure than bad.
Is it a passion that you found within coaching?
I love the game of basketball, period. So it wasn't really lost. Like it's just a good thing for me to be able to give it back to those that's coming behind, and those that are making sure that the women game continue to grow, and it's growing leaps and bounds. So I'm just happy to still be a part of it. At one point, paying it forward, now giving it back for those behind me to do the same thing.
When you got to LSU, Sue Gunther was your head coach.
Right.
How much did she mean to you?
I don't know if there's enough words, honestly, for me to be able to express that. Miss her dearly. But for somebody of Coach Gunner's caliber, not just her as a coach, her as a woman, to be able to instill the values and things that she instilled in each and every one of us, for her to care about who we were as women more than who we were as basketball players, speak volume and speaks to the character of who she is and who she was. And I try to make sure that I continue her legacy by doing the same thing, making sure I let my players know that who they become as young women is way more important to me than wins and losses. Because if they're successful as a woman, that's a win because they're successful in life.
Your junior year, you led LSU, the women's basketball team, of course, to its first Final Four. And then you guys went back the following year. Reflect on those 2 seasons of getting to the Final Four.
Uh, it was phenomenal, honestly, and I was able to play along some of the best in our game. And there's some great supporting cast that people don't even talk about anymore. But it's a lot of things that we wouldn't have been able to do. And I say we, I mean myself, Simone, Sylvia, without the other people that was on our team that pushed us, that was shed their same blood, sweat, and tears. But it was phenomenal. And then that first win, Coach Gunner took sick. Um, and it was something that we really wanted for her. It was so many different emotions, the highs and the lows of everything, but just making sure that she was as healthy as she could be, and making sure we checked up on her, but making sure that we continue to strive to do our best. That was a very important one, and it was really fun to be able to do it with the group that we was able to do it with, and then to go back and do it again the next year with the hopes of cutting down the nets. It was just fun. It was a learning experience, but one that I was able to take on with me as I got drafted. Everything that we learned and everything that was instilled in us, I think all of us that left there was successful and went on the next level. So it played a huge part.
Before I pass it on to VK, of course, LSU wins its first national championship in women's basketball. Um, Broke records viewership wise. Talk about the state of women's college basketball right now. Of where is that?
I think it's phenomenal. I think the rest of the world need to catch up. To be honest, those that's in it know how special it is. We know the blood, sweat, and tears that go into it. We know the people that's fighting and continuing to pave the way. But sometimes it gets sidetracked on you're fighting for so many different things that people lose sight of the hard work that each individual is putting into their craft, and each individual is putting into the game of basketball itself. I think women's basketball is amazing, and I think it's going to continue to grow and excel beyond what society want to kind of put women in the box of, and what we can and cannot do, how we express ourselves, and all of that. It's too much for this and not enough for that. It's going to go away. The game going to continue to keep growing. The young ladies and the women are going to continue to excel no matter what. So I'm excited about women's basketball.
Coach, how was making the adjustment, especially with Polka Chapman stepping in, taking over a little bit for Coach Gunter when she got sick? It seemed like y'all really clicked from the jump.
It wasn't really like an adjustment, Coach Chapman hadn't recruited every last one of us. She had been around. She had been up underneath Coach Gunner for a very long time. So it was kind of like watching Coach Gunner's predecessor take over and continue to do what it was that she needed to do. Coach Chapman had a voice up in practice. So it wasn't like it was anything new that we had to get accustomed to. So it wasn't a big adjustment. And plus, she played the point, wanted to win and stuff like that. She was a competitor, so it was fine.
Now, I'm going to go a little way back in the past, just a little bit for you. Now, you was at Bonneville High School.
Mm-hmm.
There was a year that you played against L.W. Higgins, and you scored about, I'm going to say, 90.
It
or
wasn't 90. Don't do Higgins like that. It was
no,
actually it was 63. It wasn't 90. Don't do him like
no,
that.
no. I'm just being honest. I'm from the West Bank, and it don't matter to me because it's just amazing to find out. It was it 98 or 97. I'm trying to make sure because this is where
uh,
the story comes in.
it probably was my 10th grade year, so probably 98.
90, okay, 90,
Yeah,
98, 98,
yeah.
98. One of my friends I grew up with, she used to play basketball for Higgins. She went watch the game, and it's like I was like, man, how good is this girl? She said, man, this is one of the best girls I probably ever seen play. She's unbelievable. And I was like, wow. And when I looked at the highlights and then looked at a lot of the other game stories in the newspapers and the television, I was like, man, this girl can go because I know that I didn't see a lot of great talent in the city, and you were definitely one of them.
I
You
definitely
know what I'm saying?
appreciate it.
Because
Without a doubt.
You can't
absolutely,
bring up the
because
Higgins game. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It was a really good game for me. I'm always gonna say like I think I had a quadruple double. Like it was the first one,
wow,
and my family couldn't believe it. And they was just when I went home and I told them, they was like, "How'd you do?" And I was like, "I had 63." They was like, "63 what?" I was like, "Points." And they was like, "What else?" I said, "Well, I had 11 assists, 10 rebounds, and 10 steals." And my uncle was
wow.
like, "That's a quadruple double." I was like, "Yeah, I played pretty good." He's like, "Did you finish the game?" I was like, "Nah, coach took me out in the fourth quarter." And he was like, "Well, what was the score?" Well, we're not gonna talk about that because they ain't really won't
Yeah, don't.
they ain't won't believe me. But the next day in the paper, they was like, "Man, who'd y'all play? This." So it was I kind of I don't know. I was in a zone. I'll just say that.
That one time I felt really really sorry for LW Higgins because I was like, man, like, and I look at the score box, I'm like, oh my god, no wonder they lost the game. Like that's crazy to
Don't do
me.
them like
But
that.
no, I'm not trying to do it like that. I'm just saying, but I'm this is what I'm. How did you felt that you were like one of the best players that really ever come out there? Because there's some great names
Absolutely.
that came from the state. Like you got Simone, but then at the time in New Orleans, Jamie Thamatis, Chandra Johnson.
Yep.
I mean, those great names in itself.
Ranika and
Like how you
Danica
feel to be one of them.
Hodges.
Ranika
Yes.
Danica
Yeah,
Hodges.
Goodness,
like
We
yes.
can't forget about
no,
Definitely
we
cannot.
can't.
those two.
We can't. You have Taurus Bright,
Because
Chris.
Ranika Hodges, it's amazing because Ranika Hodges, and people might not forget, Ranika Hodges made all Metro as an eighth grader
Yeah,
at Old Prairie Walker.
yeah. And you got the twins. You got Taurus Bright. You
Mm-hmm.
got Chris Duhon. There was a whole bunch of us that came
Oh
out
my
around
God.
that time. So, um,
Hollis Price.
yeah, for
Can't
real.
forget about him.
I think to be honest with you, I just love the game of basketball so much that I didn't really understand how good I was back then. I just love being in the gym. And by me growing up with my uncles and playing with them, anybody that got in the way of me was a problem. Like I had that, it was just that type
Hmm.
of toughness. Like my uncles were older, and I had an uncle that played, and like all my family played sports. And me being a girl, they would be like, "If you gonna play out here, there's no crying, no anything. If you get out here crying, you can't play." So they would push me down on purpose. Well, we all from New Orleans, man. You're not about to push me, and it ain't gonna be like nothing. So the toughness came from them and playing against my brothers and stuff like that. So I just love the game of basketball. Both my parents played, and I was a product. I'm a product of them, and I didn't realize it until I got up until I continued to grow and continue to play. And it was like, yo, I'm not only having fun with this, but I'm pretty good at it. Like, and I'm humble enough to kind of downplay it, and because I downplay it, I think it get downplayed some other times from everybody else because of my humility. But I was able to do some great things, and I'm thankful for it.
Now, the time when you left Bonneville, I'm trying to think, did you go straight to LSU or did you transfer in? Because at the time, there was some few schools looked at you, and that was the thing that kind of shocked me a little bit because I was like, wait a minute, there should have been a lot more schools looking at this girl here. and it's like,
No, I went.
why is she not highly recruited?
It's funny. I narrowed it down quickly to LSU and La Tech, and it came down to pretty much, honestly, Coach Gunner and the staff, and Leon Boymore and Kim Mulkey and their staff when they was at La Tech. So it was one of those situations. I narrowed it down quick. Um, when I first got into when I first got to LSU, I was a Prop 48, so I didn't play. I kept trying to take the ACT over and over, and I set out that first year, and then I came in. I literally, truthfully, only played 3.5 years of college basketball. I still have a year of eligibility left, a half a year. Would never take it, believe me. These bones, they won't even let me come back. But with the NIL, they give me them half a year back. I go sit down and be the biggest cheerleader that they got right now.
I know that's right.
But I set out, and it gave me an opportunity to reevaluate myself, put some priorities back in place, put the main priorities in place, and go from there. So that's why it seemed like it wasn't like I took I had to sit out for a little while. But it put a lot of things into perspective. Of course, all the naysayers were saying what I could and could not do and what I wasn't capable of doing. So it allowed me just to refocus and reevaluate life and go from there.
That was the most amazing thing because of the fact that, okay, we don't see Temeka in a year, and all of a sudden you come back and play for LSU. I'm up in there like, wait a minute, that can't be. I'm just floored because I already knew how good LSU is. You was just the icing on the cake on that team.
I appreciate it.
Because it was just crazy how you really stepped in and being that person that can make plays for them. Now, going into years later, when you get the call from Micah Hagans after all these years to actually come in to have your jersey retired.
Now,
what was your thought?
I'm happy about what Michael did, but there's a story behind it. So Lee McAllister actually retired my jersey before I left Bonneville, and I don't know what happened with the previous boys basketball coach at Bonneville. For some reason, he took it down. They was redoing the walls and stuff like that, and somehow it got misplaced, and it was never put back up. So that's neither here nor there.
Wow.
Here's the interesting part, and I have to not only tip my hat off to Micah and what he's doing at Bonneville, because he's doing some amazing things and he actually cares about the program and he cares about the kids. But it's Shane Foster. And everybody knows Shane and what he's capable of doing. When I graduated from Bonneville, one thing Shane told me when I went back, because I'm 4 years ahead of him, so we didn't even cross paths. We didn't go to high school together. Shane told me, he said, you left some of the biggest shoes ever to try to fill at Bonneville, which he did a remarkable job. My little brother, I absolutely love him and I'm excited for his success. But when they wanted to retire Shane's jersey, Shane told Micah, if y'all don't put Temeka Johnson jersey back up there, don't put my jersey up there, because if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have been able to believe that we could make it out of Kenner. He was like, so if you're not gonna put her jersey back up there, don't even think about putting mine. And I was just like, that spoke volume, and that speaks to Shane and who he is. And I was thankful to understand it in a different perspective, that I not only affected young girls, but I affected some young men as well, and I affected my community more than I even really knew.
You took Bonneville women's basketball to another level and everything else, and you set the tone for Shan and Micah, but then also, and I told Micah this before, I said, you got to remember Nathaniel Martin in that squad set the tone for you guys to have the group that you had. You know what I'm saying? That was an awesome Bonneville team.
Austin Martin, James Jordan.
James Jordan and company. That was an awesome team. And it was just a fact, too bad at the time, around 95, you got that St. Augustine National Championship team that was just ruling everything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that was a team that's good enough to win it, but if you in the way of all that year, it's like curtains.
Yeah. You had Solomon Knox at Bonneville, Charles Turner, rest his soul. Like, it was a lot of people. that went there. But we was also playing against Greedy Daniels and them and all them on the West Bank. So
Oh goodness,
it was kind of them games was
it was tough.
hectic.
John Everett was a really good program back
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
Got LZ Current Forges.
Yes.
You got a whole bunch of great players that came out of Everett, West Jeff at the time. That was the time when Greedy Daniel, I said not Greedy, Dino transferred over, but at the
Yeah.
time, Dino and Greedy played together at Cohen, and
Yeah.
Cohen was just a machine.
Absolutely.
Was a straight machine.
Yeah.
So, but at the time, but like I said, you set the tone a lot for girls basketball. And I'm gonna ask you this: how it was with the adjustment to coaching, especially, we know your style, but you had to change your style up a bit.
I
We
didn't though.
we see you in like dresses and stuff.
Oh well, that I mean, y'all used to
you know.
see me in uniform, like
Yeah, exactly.
I
Come
was
on,
in the
BK.
uniform. I mean, we do grow up a little bit. You
No,
know what I'm saying?
I'm just saying because it's amazing how sometimes coaches used to be players now to make the adjustment to become coaches. They sometimes got to find outfits, shoes, and stuff like. I'm saying that because I have a friend that's a junior college coach that had to make a lot of adjustments when she became a coach in high school. So
It's just having to dress up. But if you like to put on clothes, it ain't no problem. I like to put clothes on, so it's cool.
There you go.
Excuse me, it's not a problem at all. It's just having like it do get a little tedious. You got to pack like all the time and all this kind of stuff, but it's fun. You get to show a different side of you. But in the WNBA, we used to have to dress up, so we would have to dress up before the games and stuff like that. So it's not unusual for me. As far as the adjustment, I think more than anything, the adjustment was being on the phone, like having to be on the phone with kids. That was probably like the biggest adjustment. The game of basketball, that wasn't at all. And who I was as a player actually groomed me for this. Because in the beginning, I was hard nosed. I'm a hard nosed point guard. If I say something, go for the whole group, and I'm not repeating it. And this is this. But I also had to learn that even though I addressed the group, I couldn't say. I had to learn who I can say what and how to. Like sometimes you can think that you're addressing a group, you're not isolating anybody for it, but everybody don't accept that well. So I had to learn how to navigate that, see who I can talk to when I needed to talk to, who I can yell at and get straight to the point, who I needed to pat on the back, who I just needed to give a look to because they got it and they understood it. I think those things helped me in transitioning and being a coach. Like with the kids now, like it's more of their emotions. So it's like being aware of who they are and who you can holler at, who you can fuss at. But the same way, if I'm on you, I'm gonna be the first one to pick you up, pat you on the back when you do something well. And I was like that as a player once I understood it, and it's carried over. Like most of my lessons that I've had as a point guard, like I said, being that coach on the floor has pretty much carried over to me doing that.
You started as a head coach over at McKinley and done a great job getting that program together, getting in the postseason. And after a year and a half, you get the call from John Curtis to take over their basketball program after what Barbara Ferris did, taking that program to another stratosphere. Like, what are your thoughts? Tell us about the adjustment of, being your career at McKinley to going to John Curtis and continuing something that has become as big as football.
It's two different atmospheres. Definitely two different atmospheres. But for me, it's all about the kids. When I was at McKinley, I inherited some seniors that was used to a certain style. So it took a while for me to kind of break them. Like I was able to do some really good things for them. And it's in a how do I say it? In an underserved area. Even though it's close to LSU, it's in an underserved area, but it's one of the most historical schools that we have in Louisiana. So I was able to recreate like a new locker room for them, give them a feel of what it is to have some type of excellence, not in to see it on an everyday basis is believing, like seeing is believing. So, just changing the culture a little bit and trying to let them know that it's not the everyday things that they see on an everyday basis. There's more to life. There's so much more to life in that aspect. And it was kind of hard. It was hard for them to believe it. Most of predominantly African American kids and whatnot who wasn't used to certain things, it's kind of hard for them to see it if they're not seeing it every day. So I would dress up or I would wear different things and make sure that I was a living example for them, to let them know that you can be whatever you want to be. When I got to Curtis, after Barbara had won 4 straight championships in a row and that class had continued, had graduated, I was excited about the opportunity, but more than anything, to be home. Like, that was my first time back home in 20 years.
Wow.
So that part was absolutely good. I had about 4 or 5 players. And I held the camp, got some talent to come in, got some kids to transfer into the school. Uh, and it was a COVID year. So it was still COVID that was still going around, coaching in masks, people playing in masks and all this kind of stuff. And I kind of like revamped the schedule a little bit. It was like, if we're going to do this, we're going to go head first and we're going to do it the right way. We're going to make sure that we spending as much time with us, not so much outside the world, outside in the world. Like, we're not going to parties and doing this. Your health and all this is way more important to me than you going out there and be sick, bringing it back to us and all this. I was really kind of strict, and I stepped out of some of the tournaments that we was in because there was going to be way too many people. But it allowed me time to actually get to know my kids, and it allowed me time to actually pour into them and for us to practice more and stuff like that. And I tip my hat off to Jamie over at Mount Carmel because she's doing a phenomenal job over there. But the first time winning, we were down 7 with 3 minutes left to go in the championship game for the first championship with no shot clock, and it was their ball. And I was like, whew, I don't know how this is going to work, but we had them prepare so much that everything that we did leading up to that game came into effect. And we went on like an 11-point swing to win the game, to win the championship by 4. And that 3 minutes, man, it was the longest 3 minutes of my life. Do you hear me? For us to be able to do the things that we was able to do, and for me to continue the legacy that, Barbara started and those that had came before, to continue to push it to 6 and to the championships was great. It was, but the impact that I had on my teammates, on my players and their teammates is more important to me. And I still talk to them. I'll actually be home in May for one of my kids that's graduating. That's how important to me. That's the most important thing.
Well, I tell you, I'm probably going to see you there because I have a nephew that's finishing at John Curtis.
Okay.
So you'll probably see me over there as well. But at the same time, I got to ask you this about Alondra Brown. Now, you look at the past coaches at Curtis, Melissa Neffinger, who set the tone at Curtis winning 2 state championships. Barbara Ferris comes in, takes over the program, 4 championships. You come in, you win 2 championships. Now you got Alondra Brown, who turned around a great program at Ben Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
She steps in at Curtis. They come up short against Lafayette. But it seemed like she faced a lot of pressure this year, and I kind of fell for it because it's a lot of, you could say, expectation, but sometimes some unwanted pressure. What you can, say about that, especially how Alondra is really trying her best to step in at John Curtis, and I know that's some big shoes she's stepping in.
I think she did a good job, but I think coming in, she had to find her own. Like, when I first got there, Barbara had won 4 championships back to back to back to back. So I'm like, okay, I can't do it how Barbara did it. I gotta do it the way I know how to do it. I gotta do it the way that I know how to win. I gotta invest in and put my mark on it. And I think that's what Alindra is trying to do. And I've had some conversations with her. But I also called Barbara when I first got there to pick her brain and stuff like that. And whatever it is that I needed, I took to, if it was going to benefit us and the kids, I took it and added to it. I've tried to talk to Alindra as well to, this is your team. This is your program. You put your mark on it. You put your stamp on it. My line is always open for you. I don't care what it is because it's about the kids. It's not about anything else. And I want to see her be successful. So I think with her getting her foot in the door, doing what it is, finding her niche and realizing that she has access to different tools and things that she probably didn't have other places, I think it's just her coming into her own when it's beneficial for her. But I think she'll do well.
Last thing I'm gonna ask you, I'm gonna let Jared finish it off. Sorry, Jared, but I'm taking all this time. But
You are great, my friend. You are great. It's all good.
yeah. But what came through the opportunity for you to get the opportunity to coach on the college level to go ahead and take the position after 2 years of John Curtis for you to become the assistant coach over at Western Kentucky?
It's funny. You talked about me being at McKinley. One of the coaching staff here was recruiting one of my players from McKinley, and she ended up going to Texas A&M. Well, she got back in the portal, and they reached out to me and asked me had I been in communication with her. And I had been talking to her and trying to help her figure out what her next move was, or just trying to help her understand like how she should move. And they had a position that was opening. I don't know if them talking to me about my former player was the way in, because we didn't really talk about her much more after that. And they just asked me if it was something that I wanted to do. I had an opportunity to come up here and see campus. I prayed about it, and God said that I opened up that door, so it was time for me to walk through it.
Wow, and it seemed like the college experience has been really. It seemed like you really enjoyed it and everything else, and it's going to be interesting because now you're going to get to see Coach Ferris a bit because now she's new on the staff at Southern Miss.
I saw that. I'm extremely happy for her, and she's closer to home, so I know she's happy. I'm happy for, but I'm happy for all our hometown people that go on and do great things. So I'm looking forward to watching her and Southern Miss with their success.
I'm going to finish it off with your pro career in the WNBA. And the first question, I remember this like yesterday, and I was just shocked that it happened. Here's Coach Temeka Johnson, Rookie of the Year with the Washington Mystics.
Please don't tell me you were shocked by that.
Not shocked by you winning Rookie of the Year. No, not that. But the following season, before the season starts, you were traded to the Los Angeles Sparks. That is what shocked me. What was going through your head when that happened?
I think it was a bit of a shock for me too, honestly. But when they told me where they wanted to trade me to, and I was like, okay, Washington or LA with Lisa Leslie as the post player. And because they was like, you can fight against it if you want. I was like, they want me to go to LA and be the point guard for Lisa Leslie, who's dominating the women's game right now, or they want me to fight with them because at the same time it was a trade-off between myself and Nikki Teasley, and Nikki Teasley's from there. So they wanted to bring a bigger point guard home and whatever. And listen, I had already won Rookie of the Year. It would have been great for me to be able to say that I stay with DC or whatever, because at that time, Sheila Johnson was coming in, being the owner of it and stuff like that. So it was cool to have an owner as an African-American female and stuff like that. So that part was fun. I have nothing terrible to say about the DC organization, the Mystics organization at all. It was just a decision that they made. I didn't really understand the business side of everything at that moment, but I was just looking at an opportunity to go play with Lisa Leslie, Shamika Holmes-Claw, and I was like, okay. I mean, if it's not gonna work, if they think it's not gonna work, then I'll take my talents to the West Coast.
Last question. You've played with a lot of the greatest players to ever play women's professional basketball. But 2009 WNBA championship with who people call one of the GOATs, Diana Taurasi. Tell us a little bit about Diana Taurasi that we do not know since you played with her.
I'll start off with something that I learned from Dee, and we played against each other since we were like 11 to 12 years old. I played with the Ken Angels. She played with Southern Cal. One of the things that I learned from her was how to have fun while working hard. Like, she's probably one of the hardest working teammates that I've had, but she has fun while doing it. She's probably one of the smartest as well. She's 2, 3, 4 plays ahead before the person even realized what she's doing. I think that in that aspect, it was really good to get to see that. And she told, like, she's known me. We've grown up, we same class, all this kind. She's like, "Meek, you gotta have a little fun. You always got to be a pit bull. You always so mean. This, and all this. Like, she's like, you got to loosen up. We're going to have fun. And I learned how to have fun while still working hard. Like, I'm small, man. I'm 5'3". So I've always had to grind, and I'll have fun when I'm done. But she taught me how to have fun while still doing it, and I'll never forget it. I don't think I've ever told Dee that, but that's one of the things that I admired about her hard work and how she enjoyed doing it. So it was absolutely fun. And I can't forget about Cappy Pondexter, Penny Taylor, playing alongside of them. I got Cappy on one side, Diana on the other side. It's like pick your poison. Whichever one, you're still going to die. It was fun.
Yeah, and also you played under a very legendary coach that has one of the most interesting coaches stories I've ever seen. And talking about the head coach for at the time the Phoenix team that won the WNBA championship.
Oh, you're talking about Corey Gaines.
Yes.
Yes. Corey actually played basketball at Loyola Marymount with Bo Kimball and Hank Gathers. He was the point guard for them. So his passion for the game, his love for the game, his desire to want to continue to get better, whether it was on the men's side or the women's side. It was actually fun to play for Corey because he was a former player. So he knew what he wanted, he knew what he expected, and I was happy to win with that group.
Absolutely. I mean, Corey Gaines was great. The coach who he was under was as well because he worked a little bit with the Phoenix team. Paul Westhead. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Not just Corey Gaines, Paul Westhead.
Yes.
See, that's one of the most unique coaching stories. I don't know if you ever seen Jared. I don't know if you ever seen the Guru or Go. Please look at that 30 for 30. Paul Westhead went through a lot to get to where he is. Yeah. And for him to being disrespected, but for him to rise from it's a very unique story. But I know that's a whole lot. But at the same time, I think he done a great job, and then Corey Gaines done a lot to take your team to the next level to get that title. But which championship ring you cherish the most, ma'am, at all the rings you got? Because you got a WNBA ring and you got some state championship rings. You didn't get the national, but still you got close. So which ring you cherish the most?
They're all special to me in a different way, honestly. But my first one would have to be, like the WNBA one, because it was dedicated to so many different things. Like my grandmother had passed away the year before. I didn't get a chance to get it done at LSU, so it was to Coach Gunner. Like it was so many things that went into me when we won the first championship. So the first one is very special, but me winning as a coach was special as well, and being able to do that in front of my family after being gone for so long, and to go back to back in my hometown, I couldn't ask for anything better. So all of it was amazing to me.
Tameka, you are absolutely unbelievable. We thank you so much for joining us on the Hash It Out show. I mean, like I said, you yourself, you're great, not just great all around pro, but you're a great redemption story after all what you have overcome to be as successful where you are. So hopefully you continue to do what you do at Western Kentucky. We wish you the best, and maybe we might see you in the head coaching spot. I don't know, but certain of my coaching friends that I know that I'm tight with, some say the head coaching thing's a little bit of a headache, but keep doing what you're doing.
Any position you take is different like that. So yeah, it's just we'll see. Whatever God wants, I'm cool with it. But I definitely appreciate y'all having me. I thank y'all for everything that y'all doing by keeping each and every one of us alive down there at home. Like it's important and it's needed because sometimes it's forgotten. So I thank y'all both seriously for having me on.
Thank you, Coach.
No, thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good one.
We'll see you soon.
All right. Bye.
Coach Temeka Johnson. And as you just saw, my co-host led the way at the end. I'm gonna get him though.
I was hoping you wasn't gonna feel that type of way. I'm like, oh God. I'm thinking in the back of my head. I was thinking in the back of my head. I said, dang, man. I'm like, Jared gonna be not too happy with me because I'm taking too much of the time. You know what I'm saying?
Look, every question I had for her, I asked. So I was
Oh,
good.
okay. I'm straight
Yeah,
there.
every question
All
I
right.
had, I asked.
Cool.
I had a question about Simone, but she kind of said Simone like one of the best players she ever played with, so it was all good. It was all good.
I
I'm
had to
just
go to
saying.
I had to go to the almanac. You know what I'm saying? I had to tell a
Yeah.
story, but I had to go way back, the stuff you probably didn't know. And it's like, hey, look, we got to go back to Higgins. Like, how you know about this? I'm like, the Higgins stuff. I'm like, look, big shout out to LW Higgins. Got number love. It was not a shot to you.
Look,
Not a
we got
shot
some
to you.
Higgins people watching.
I know it was not a shot to you. That's all I'm saying. I know it was bad memories. You know what I'm saying? But it's okay. It's okay.
Oh man. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Coach Temeka Johnson. Yes,
Yes.
BK ended it without me, but I'll get him. But it's all good. George Peppers is back with us. George, what is your greatest memory of Temeka Johnson?
Watching her dominate at LSU the way she did and just carrying herself on the pedestal that she did. She was really demanding of herself and elevated her team to great heights. Now, granted, they didn't win the Natty, but just her example and her leadership on that floor and being how those teams never won a national championship with Simone and Sylvia. How did they not win the ring? And that's just and look, as great a coach as Sue Gunner was, and she was, God rest her soul, and whatnot. I mean, to this day, those LSU teams, they ran into the wrong era. Pat Summit, Tennessee, Ariema, Connecticut. They just ran
Hey,
into
but
a
they
little
had
bit
they had
better.
teams better
But you
than
know
those
what?
they
But
had though.
here's the thing. I'm gonna say this: the year, and I'm gonna say this right now. I still say to this day. To me, the
Hmm.
year that LSU lost to Tennessee at the New Orleans Arena, I was there for that. I still say to this day, I
Hmm.
got number of respect for Pat Summit, but the luckiest national championship game they ever
Oh,
won
here
that
we
year.
go.
The luckiest. To me,
Well,
no way in the world LSU should have lost that game. They had Tennessee dead.
at
They
home,
had Tennessee dead, and they just didn't finish it.
mhm,
They had them dead
at home,
right in New Orleans. And to me, if LSU beats Tennessee, they win the Natty. They win the Natty that year. I know UConn was pretty good, but
right?
I think LSU was a bit better. So I think LSU would have beat UConn and won the title, in my opinion. Because I'm sorry,
It would
that
it
game right there to this
it would
day,
have been
I still never forget
mm,
that night because I was like, I thought LSU
that
was
would have that
powerful
would have been the
and should have won that
well,
game.
that would have been the daily double of daily doubles to beat Pat Summit and Gino Auriemma back to back. How many people could say they could
They
do
should have
that?
won that game against Tennessee, hands
They
down,
did.
Exactly, and
without
You're
they
right.
would have won. And they would have won.
Absolutely.
And they would have won the whole thing, in my opinion. Because
See, I don't know
LSU
if
played
that's
a tougher
automatic.
schedule. They would. I don't think it's automatic, but I think it'd have been close. But I think LSU would have won it because of
Hmm.
their tough schedule and the teams they beat on the way to Final Four. They played
Well,
some tough
yeah,
teams
because
and
that
got
was
the
a
win.
brutal regional that came out of.
Yes.
That regional was absolutely stacked, and LSU was able to navigate it. And the melting pot was here in New Orleans. The Final Four here in the city. You got Tennessee on your home floor, and you had that game and gave it away. And I don't want to say gave it away. It's a little too strong to say that, but Tennessee elevated and
Well,
LSU didn't.
that was
I think
LSU's first year in the Final Four
exactly.
too.
Yes,
actually, that
exactly.
was
And
that was first year or second year.
That's the
Got
first
first,
got to
year.
make
The
first year,
first year,
first,
2004.
2004. Okay.
yep. But Tennessee and for all the great programs they've had, and look, Pat Summitt, God rest her soul, one of the greats of all time, maybe the goat of women's coaching, perhaps. I mean, that's a heck of an argument to make. Um, but look, we extended this back to Tamika, and look, good on her that she's at Western Kentucky, and as she continues to carve out her niche. I can bet you this: some program is going to hire her as a head coach, and it's not going to be a non-power five. I think it's a power five somewhere is going to hire her because of her commitment and her demand for excellence. If she applies that to her coaching regimen, which I'm sure she does. I mean, look, she was under great tutelage in the WNBA. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Let her find an opportunity, I think, in a Power Five school, heck, even a non Power Five to start with. But Tamika's got a very bright future, and you know what? I'm rooting for her. Um, that being
What was
said, Jared,
LSU's? I'm sorry. What LSU's first year to Final Four? The
04,
2004.
2004. You got it.
Now, I'm about to say this.
Go ahead.
2005 is the year for sure that team should have won. Overall number 1 seed.
Mm-hmm.
You're up by 20 on Baylor.
And you give it away.
You gave it away, and Baylor wins the championship.
But Kim Mulkey was the head coach there, so let's kind of throw an iron on that.
Look, everybody says Pokey got out coached that game. Everyone says that, but the talent that they had, Temeka, Simone.
You're supposed to get home.
Sylvia was the icing
get
on
home,
the cake.
Jaron. You're supposed to get home in that game.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to get home? Like me,
win.
Win.
Get home. Get home.
Win it.
Finish it up. Win it.
Yes, correct.
And Simone, and I tell you, they got all these great players. Sylvia Fowles was the icing on the cake. She was the straight icing on the cake. She was a freshman. So I'm thinking, and especially how she came around during the year, especially late in the year, I'm like, LSU's gonna win the whole thing. They're gonna win the whole thing, and it came up short. But at the same time, for LSU, for them achieving what they have done over that time, making the run that they made, is really unprecedented, especially for LSU women's basketball. It's unbelievable what they have done, and then all of a sudden you had a little bit of a fall. But for Kim Mulkey to having that thing rise up again, and this time in year number 2 to win the championship, the same coach that took down LSU and won the championship came back home and went up there and got them a title.
It was written in the books. It was written in the books for it to happen.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was written, but here's the thing. Some of us didn't thought it was going to happen till next year. And
I said 3 to 5. 3 to 5 years what I said.
I said the way it was looking, especially late in the season, I was like, LSU can win this thing next year because of the fact of the matter is who they got coming and who's coming back.
Without a doubt.
And then all of a sudden, though they jumped on it this early, it just shows that, this probably might be a dynasty. So the biggest thing is hopefully Kim Mulkey and hopefully Angel Reese, Flage be humble enough to become a little more mature next year, be more leaders, and understand. They're leaders now, but a little more leaders because of the freshmen and people coming in. Because
4 high school All-Americans.
And
4. Exactly.
You got to break them in. You got to break them in and understand.
They'll be fine.
Yeah, they'll be fine. But you got to break them in and understand what this thing is about. But then on top of that, they're going to have to maintain. They're going to have to handle their business and understand that target is going to be on their back. Big time.
I'm going to let George go 1 second. I just want to finish this off right quick.
Go ahead.
2007, the third Final Four in Boston. LSU lost to Duke, who lost to Maryland. 2007, the fourth Final Four. LSU, they lost to Tennessee. And Tennessee beat Rutgers.
Yep.
And in 2008, the Final Four in Tampa. Tennessee won again. And I think LSU lost to, was it Stanford that year, I think?
I think so.
What year were you saying? 08?
08, yes.
Was it Stanford? I don't know.
I'm about to tell you.
Yeah, double check that because I don't remember them playing Stanford in a Final Four. Maybe they did, but just off the top of my head, no.
Lost to Tennessee by 1 point.
Right.
That year.
Wasn't that the game they shot like 30% or something awful in that game?
Yeah.
If I remember right, they shot god awful in that game, and they still could have won it.
And then the year before, with them losing to Tennessee, and Tennessee was not that bad of a team. I was just shocked that they won it all, especially going against a really good.
The year before, I made the mistake. The year before in 07, they lost to Rutgers by 24. And then Rutgers lost to Tennessee in the championship.
I was more shocked with Rutgers losing to Tennessee because Tennessee wasn't that bad of a team, but Rutgers was loaded. Yeah. And I'm like, how Pat Summitt pulled this off? I don't know. Epiphany Prince.
Rutgers had your girl on that
Yeah,
team, right? Epiphany Prince, I
Epiphany
think.
Prince, and they had Kia Ivy,
Yep.
Kia Vaughn, I meant to say. And they had another big girl. They were loaded to bear. And Tennessee got by. And I was like, wow. I mean, probably two of the greatest coaching jobs I've ever seen from Pat
Yep.
Summitt. That one and the year when Shamiko Holslaw won that title, and they had Holsclaw when they won that title with 14 losses on the year. Those were the two best coaching jobs I've ever seen. I know Pat Summitt's a great coach, but that was the two greatest coaching jobs I've ever seen from him.
Go ahead, George.
I was gonna say this. I saw the end of Tamika's interview, and Jared, I feel you, dog. VK, I love you, but if you need some backup, Jared, you already know.
Oh yeah, without
You
doubt.
ain't gotta ask twice. All right. I mean, us West Bank alumnus has got to stick together. You know, I went to Aaron, you went to Shaw.
Yeah.
Here we go.
You know, but nah, it's all in fun though. Listen, I mean, it's all in fun. Look, I got mad love for both of you guys, man. I mean, the opportunities that we're doing on this show and everything that I've said is true about this show. And to score the interviews that you guys that happened tonight, Eric Asher, who's a staple in New Orleans, a longtime staple, and then a longtime great in Temeka Johnson, one of the all-time greats in Temeka, to have them on this show, an up-and-coming show that's making tremendous strides to that I attribute it to our leader, Jared Boyd.
Thank you.
He's done immaculate work.
I can't take all the
With
credit.
that said,
Man, VK, VK gets most of the guests.
yeah, he scores some. He gets these dudes in there, and I get it. But what I like about this show the most, not just the interviews, the banter. I think the banter between the three of us is natural. There's no forced like chemistry. I think the chemistry is, and you could just see it. I mean, for those of you listening, the three of us, we've known each other a long time. VK and I have been in media a long time, so those relationships are there and they're for life. I sound like the NWO, don't I? Jesus. Okay. I mean, it's what not, but it's facts.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that we do what we do, and look, Eric, I wanted to touch on something. I know you want to talk about Colorado and, and what happened, the exodus, which I get, and that I expected it. But before, I wanted to touch on something Eric Asher said, and he said they need dogs, right, with rings. I could say the easiest dog with ring because he's about to leave the West Coast.
Oh, I
I'd
heard this
want him
story
here.
too. Go ahead.
Kawhi?
Oh no, not him.
I want
Not
Kawhi.
him.
I want that dude here. And then you draft your point guard, and if your lottery comes right, you draft your true point. If you're not sure about Kyra, draft your true point. I don't know if you have the assets to get Kawhi, and the Clippers are already telling you they're getting rid of him. So the asking price is not going to be exorbitant. They're not going to ask you for a ton. Okay, they're going to give you some you're going to give them some equitable value. But Kawhi Leonard as a Pelican, yep, I'm good with that one. Over Dame. Over Dame. I would take Kawhi over Dame.
Does he stay healthy?
That's the thing.
That's the thing.
He puts in load management.
And here's the thing.
Well, that ain't gonna fly here. That load management stuff's not gonna fly here with Willie Green. That's not gonna fly.
Well,
Willie ain't gonna have on hand in that foolery.
I'm just saying, it's in his contract for the Clippers.
But we have a potential problem with our medical staff potentially here for the Pels. So I don't know Kawhi would have the fit. I would go with somebody that for real that is gonna bring a possible championship here, that's a winner, and then on top of that has never gotten the support he never had. And that's Dame Lillard. I'm gonna continue to say it until he comes here, because Dame Lillard has never gotten the support he needed in Portland. He might have had 1 year that he had a great cast, then all of a sudden, unexpectedly, injuries came. So now this man staying in Portland, that is a big time. He shows big time loyalty. But for him to come down to play with a person he played with before, but then you got leaders and experience up in there that can help out, and then maybe can draft that point guard as well that could come off the bench, but not just that can be in the game as well, or get a forward. There's a lot of thick mixing factors. I would love to maybe have Kawhi, but the injury thing gets to me. I'm gonna say there's a dog with rings. And I'm gonna say this. I don't care what
Yeah.
anybody say. Draymond Green.
I was just about to go there.
Draymond
That's the
Green.
story I was
He is
told.
he
That's
is
the
in his
enforcer
last
that
year.
you need. Yes,
Come
we
down.
need that enforcer.
We need the enforcer, and he'll come down here. He'll do great in New Orleans, and then on top of that, he's got that dog in him and that passion in him, and
That's the dog they need.
and and if Zion is still down there, Zion gonna have to wake up because Draymond ain't playing that. And I ain't gonna lie, Brandon Ingram will love it too, because now you got dogs up in there that's gonna say, "Hey, come up in here if you're gonna come with that dumbness."
See, there was a story that came out about a possible trade for Draymond to New Orleans. We need somebody with some toughness.
I agree.
That's gonna push his teammates. That's gonna have his teammates back and also have them perform to the best of their ability, no matter what, hurt or whatever. That's what we missing. Somebody with leadership. Because see, on this Golden State team here, Steph Curry is not the leader of that team. Okay? Yes, he's the best player on the team, but the leader is Draymond Green. And that is what the Pelicans is missing. A leader like that. And I'm all for Draymond coming here, being a leader, pushing the teammates. Hey, a little fight happens. So what? Teammates do fight. And we move on, and let's just be better. But yeah, I'm with Draymond as a leader.
I think Draymond is a leader, but also Steph is a leader too. Steph is a leader too.
Well, I'm not saying he's not.
Oh, you talking about Steph,
but I'm saying
you
look at the
vocally.
overall leader of that team.
Yeah, you're talking about
Draymond.
vocally. Yeah.
I
Talking
wouldn't mind Draymond coming here with this crew. The Pelicans has a great cast. They got good players. This team can go far. Yes, we need a true point guard. Yes, we do. But man, who is this person that's gonna push their teammates to be better? Who's gonna do it? They don't have nobody that's gonna do that. Now here Draymond down here is happening.
Now checking out the we talking about the postseason and everything, the playoff games tonight, and this is some big stuff tonight, some turnarounds, you can say, more than anything else. The Grizzlies getting it done 116-99 over the Lakers.
They're losing that game.
The Lakers are up 3-2 going back to LA, and that's going to be interesting in itself. Congratulations are going to the New York Knicks. They move on. They beat Cleveland 106-95. So congratulations to the Knicks. Game 5, the Heat and Bucks, close game, 66-58, 2:45 left, second quarter. The Sacramento Kings up 33-30, 36-33 at the end of one. Some good, interesting games tonight. Now, I'm not surprised with the Grizzlies. They hold home court, but now the Lakers having a chance to close it out. If the Heat pulls this off, and I'm going to say this, in my opinion, if the Heat comes back and pulls this win off, possibly the biggest, I hate to say it, the biggest upset in NBA history.
I would disagree on that.
I totally disagree. Totally disagree.
No, you have, listen, this is the, how it's not? You have
You're
to think
getting
about
caught
it.
up on 8-1, dude.
No,
hold on,
no. You have to think about this. You have to think about this.
Okay.
The Bucks were the overall favorites to win the title. The overall favorites. But then on top of that, the Miami Heat, who's been very inconsistent all season, and now they turn up and a chance to knock off the favorites that could win it all. Meaning, if that happens, it's one of the biggest upsets in the history of the NBA because of, guess what? Look how wide open the title race is now, especially in the East Coast. In the East Coast, over in the Eastern Conference side. You have to think. Omani Jones said this. If the Bucks lose, this could be a possibility that the New York Knicks might get to the conference finals.
Yeah, possibility for the Knicks. Go ahead, George Peppers. You say what you got to say first.
All right,
because we both on the same
I think we both agree.
I.
Jared, I think we're both on the same wave, but here's where I'm going to go with this. Last week on this show, I told the both of you I'm picking Philadelphia to get out of the East. I stand by that prediction, even though Embiid's got a little bum knee. I think they're going to beat the Celtics. The Celtics will close the Hawks out. But VK, to say that Miami is the biggest upset in the history of the playoffs, we're getting caught up on 8-1. That's not the first 8-1 to get to happen. All right. With that said, well, let's not forget Miami has beaten this team before, and they beat them in 6 and they lost in 6. This is a difficult matchup, and you forget one Jimmy Butler. That's a dog in the playoffs. Jimmy Butler in the regular season's okay. Jimmy Butler in the postseason is a dog, and I mean that's a pit bull. 56 points in Game 4. Now, to say that Miami loses to the Knicks, look, I'm a diehard Knicks fan. Love my Knicks, proud of them. First playoff series win since 2013. I get that, and I thought they'd win it. And I'm happy that they won it in such stylish fashion. Cleveland proved their youth in this series. They had no answer. The Knicks are deep. This is a very deep basketball team. They're young. They're energetic. Jalen Brunson is the best. But you know who gave them some good minutes? Mitchell Robinson in this series. He did great. Josh Hart was a dog in this series. Emmanuel Quickly, we saw him against the Pelicans in the penultimate game of the regular season. He's another dog. So I think they would beat Miami because they're more well-rounded. Here's the problem I had with Milwaukee coming into this, not why I didn't pick them. Giannis is back. I don't know if it holds out, dude. I mean, I'm not sure it holds out. If it does, great. But to say that Miami is the biggest upset, Jared, I'm not going to say I'm not going to be that strong about it. I think it's an outreach. It's a reach, really, to be honest. I think it's a reach. I know what, and look, I got mad love for you, but I think you're a prisoner of the moment here.
This is not a prisoner of the moment. You have to think about this.
Yes, it is.
No, listen.
Okay.
We understand what you're
Hold
saying.
Hold on, I'm gonna let you go because I gotta go. I know.
Let it fly,
Go
dog.
ahead, Jared.
I'll let you rebuttal after me.
Go ahead. Say what you gotta say.
I strongly disagree with this being being the biggest upset of an 8-1. I strongly disagree. Number one, Miami was in the finals in the bubble. They were in the conference finals last year with Boston.
Yep.
It went 7 games.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep.
This team, okay, yeah, so they struggled a little bit, had a couple injuries. It happens, but they match up well with Milwaukee and Boston. So what has happened is not by accident. Okay, yeah, Giannis missed 2 games or 3, whatever. But still, no, this is not the biggest upset. The biggest upset still to this day is the Denver Nuggets.
Nuggets over Sonics.
Yes. To this day, that is still the biggest upset of an 8-1. The Nuggets over the Sonics.
Because that Sonics team was dogs, man. Them dudes were silly good. Kemp, Peyton, Shrimp, and a lot of all-stars on that team, and they lost in 7 to Denver. That, to me, I agree with you, Jared. Big upset. Biggest one.
Now, your rebuttal, sir.
Here's my rebuttal. I understand where you're coming from. I'm calling this a big upset for one reason. Here's the thing. We understand what Miami has done in the past. We understand it's a difficult, but here's the thing. What you done for me lately? Miami's
No.
I said lately, meaning this year.
Oh, wow.
We're talking about this season. Miami has underachieved big time. And then on top of that, the matchups this season for the Bucks and Miami. The Bucks dominated every matchup this season. 1 game, 6 players in double figures, and a 40-point blowout. Come on, man. This is a big upset for that reason. This is not the same Miami team from last year or 2 years ago. Not this Miami team. We know they're tough. We know they're talented. We know how good Jimmy Buckets is. But we didn't see that all year. Now you're gonna turn the damn switch on now? Come on, man. This Milwaukee team, we see how deep they are, especially with a healthy team. Now, Milwaukee has been very unfortunate the last couple seasons, especially last season with the injury of Chris Middleton. Now, how much of a difference would it have been if he'd have played? Especially the way Giannis went crazy last season, despite for them going short. Now this season, we're going to see if they can hold on and come back. But with Milwaukee, look what happened with Giannis with his injury. Now you see what happened in game 2, how Milwaukee turned up. And they did what they did without I think it was game 2 or 3, without Giannis. But all of a sudden, without Giannis started to affect them. So all of a sudden now, in credit Miami, they turning up at the right time, finally turning up at the right time, what we didn't see all year. But knowing what Milwaukee has and how deep they are and how much of a better team they are this season to this Miami Heat, to me, that's why I say this is going to be probably the biggest upset if they pull it off. Bigger than the Sonics and Denver. Sonics is great. The Sonics in Denver, that was a great upset. But I think this is going to top it because of the fact of the matter is how deep and how good this Milwaukee team that can win the whole thing and all of a sudden go against a team that has been inconsistent all season long and even with the matchups.
And that's when I say I still disagree with you. And I need you to know one thing also. What team is the oldest in the NBA? Who has the oldest team?
Well, both of them is
the Bucks. The Bucks. The Bucks is the oldest team in the NBA. Also,
the Heat is the old team too. So you can't.
older than them. The Bucks are older, and if the Bucks don't win this year, I guarantee you that team getting broken apart. You might keep your main 3, but everybody else, and Bobby Portis will stay. Look, I'm sorry, VK. I like your points. I disagree with them. So does George.
Of course.
We're going to hash it out show as we hash out this situation before we move to the next topic. But the biggest upset? No. I'm sorry, my friend. No, I disagree. Okay. George?
It's your opinion.
Yes, sir.
Do you disagree?
Eric Spoelstra is their coach. Do I? I love him. I do.
We do.
But Eric Spoelstra is still the Miami Heat head coach. Listen, Eric Spoelstra is still their coach, right?
Yes.
Last I checked, that man, I don't think that man forgot how to win in the playoffs. You?
No, I don't think so either.
I don't think that dude forgot.
No.
That dude's a dog in the playoffs.
I think he's coaching circles over Budenholzer right now. I could definitely Budenholzer.
I'll say this though. Flipping to the Western Conference for a second, Lakers are a cinch to close out game 6. They're going to close in game 6.
They got to send that loud talking team home. All they do is talk.
Exactly.
About the West.
Them trifling.
LeBron, send that team home, bro.
Do you know that? Do you know that LeBron only had 15 tonight? You think that's going to happen at Staples? Not a chance.
Nah, he had about 20.
I'm sorry, crypto. They call it crypto.
Nah,
Desmond Bain went for 39. Desmond Bain went for 36 tonight. That ain't happening again. No. And Sacramento, I told y'all, look, they're winning tonight early against Golden State.
It's close.
If they win game 5, they win game 6.
And here's the thing.
I'm calling it now.
Game 7.
I think the problem we're seeing,
it's game 6.
We do not have any dominant teams so far in the playoffs because
and I love it.
It's great. It's great. But there's no killer instinct for any of these teams, not even the top teams. The Lakers need to find a killer instinct to put away Memphis. The scariest thing for the Lakers, and I think they do put it away. I think right now Dylan Brooks need to pipe down right now because you don't need all that.
An elbow to the head would work.
Exactly. He needs to pipe down. It's just too much. And somebody, I overheard somebody was saying it in a conversation saying, well, I think Ja is not going to be, listen, Memphis is going to be there if they keep that nucleus together. They just need a little more maturity, not just to the team, but in the off season, they're going to have to, and I mentioned that to Jared before, it's time to call in Marc Gasol and Zebo have a nice little conversation with the team and job, and be like, hey, there's a way that you can handle this. You have the
Okay.
potential to take off, and you have a potential to do well in the Western Conference. You
No, they
got
don't.
what you mean? No, they don't.
No, they
You have
don't.
to understand the chemistry is
I'll let
all
you
there.
finish.
Here's the thing: how in
Okay.
the world they won a game without Ja Morant?
They did it last year.
Miracles
And
happen.
not just miracles. That's a good coach out there from Memphis who has done a hell of a job. Not too many coaches have done that. Not too many.
I understand. I'm not.
It's just saying though.
I'm not saying about coaching.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to tell you.
Go ahead.
John Morant ain't winning a ring in Memphis. He's going to do it in another city.
Oh God.
I'm calling it now.
Here we
Ja ain't
go.
staying there. He's not a lifer. I promise you, he's done.
Here we go. I think I can see what you're saying. He's not built like Giannis to go rent it in a small market.
Nope.
Oh man, y'all big.
John Morant would look mighty good in a freaking Sacramento uniform. But do they really need a guy like that? No. Maybe the Lakers. Can you imagine him with the Lakers and LeBron and Anthony Davis?
Oh my God.
Jeez.
Y'all
I mean, that would be.
Let me say this. Let me say this right quick. Let me say this right quick.
Go ahead.
We got to get to Deion.
Go ahead, Jared.
But let me just say this.
Let's do it.
Steven Adams is out hurt. Does Steven Adams make a difference in that series right now?
Nope.
He does. He does because he's strong. He's really strong.
Marginally.
He's really strong. And the thing is, he really guards that middle pretty well. You know what I'm saying? Anthony Davis ain't going to do what he's doing if Adams is in the game. He's a tough big dude. And Brandon Clark not being out there either, that don't help. When you have chemistry like that, especially people coming off the bench that play as well, that tells you Memphis has a good system up in there. They just need the maturity to kick in, and then it can really be that team. That's the thing that Memphis needs. They need maturity. That's the only thing. Because trust me, if they would be, I know they were bad in itself because about themselves they were bad, but they still would have been a 2 seed. Some way, somehow, they was still a 2 seed after all that. But now they got to be more mature to be that team.
Well, I want someone to shut Memphis up. That's all I gotta say.
You might as well shut them up for this year.
Me too.
Shut them up for this year.
They need to be humbled.
They do. That's why That's why I changed my pick.
All right. All right, guys. Last topic. We got about a good 5 minutes. So, Colorado, whose head coach of the football team is Deion Sanders, has a total of 51 since he got there now. Since he got to Colorado, and now after this spring game, 51 players have entered the transfer portal. And I did spell it wrong, transfer to portal. I meant transfer portal. I'm sorry. 51 players have entered the transfer portal. Okay? So, what is that telling people? Okay? Somebody told me, it's Deion way to the highway, which, okay, I get it. But here we go. We got kids that want to transfer from Colorado, and Deion is not releasing their film. I got a problem with that. I got a problem because now you're holding kids hostage. You got there and you told kids in your first meeting, hit the portal. I got dogs coming. Pretty much telling those kids in that studio hall or that classroom, y'all not needed, y'all not good. I don't need y'all. Get out. Pretty much what you said. So now, they got kids that want to leave. You're holding their film and coaches can't see it. Deion, do not do that to those kids. Release the film. Let these kids go to another college and play football. Let these coaches see the film. This is horrible if you're doing this. Holding film. Come on, man. You told the kids, hit the portal. Kids hitting the portal from your school, from your program. Let the film go.
Is it true?
Don't be like Deion. Don't be like that, because there's people out there saying you're all about yourself. It's all about Deion. You're doing this.
Is it facts? That's the biggest thing.
It's facts because kids that came out and tweeted about it. Jim Mora, a coach at UConn, came out and tweeted about it. He can't get the film. So it's facts.
That's not
it
good.
Is facts.
That's not good.
He don't make it about yourself, Dion. Let them kids go out and go to school and play somewhere. Come on, man. Imagine somebody did that to your son. And now they can't get their film. Let the kids go. George Peppers.
I mean, there's a couple of angles we could take. I mean, you could take the one about Dion being the egomaniac, the self-centrist person that he was when he was a player. He didn't show any of those traits at Jackson State. He did everything right at Jackson State. Now he's got a golden opportunity at a Power 5 in a conference that's all of a sudden is going to be wide open because UCLA and USC, your two preeminent programs, are leaving. Our Oregon is going to be the one you're going to chase. Washington seems to be pretty good. But what he's doing here, this is extremely disturbing. I don't know enough yet. I mean, you're seeing 51, but what's the backdrop? Is it just basically he told them all 51 get the step and hit the bricks?
I'll say this. I'm gonna say this, and I'll let you continue. When he first got there,
all right.
He had a meeting with the players that were already part of the program.
I watched it too.
So now, all of a sudden, you have a spring game, and there's a receiver. I cannot think of his name that was going off in that spring game, and then 2 days later, he's going to enter the transfer portal. And
that's silliness.
And then a lot of them. It was 15 and 18. Now the total since he got there is 51. Something ain't right, man. Go ahead, George.
First of all, brother, you gotta have depth in a conference like the Pac-12. You got to have numbers. I think Dion. I hope Dion's not coaching Colorado like he's coaching Jackson State, where you could get away with 50 to 60 players. That's not gonna happen at the Pac-12. You better have some freaking dogs on that roster. And I'm not talking about no mutts. Get dudes that can play. And 50 now you got 51 dudes that are in the portal. Do you know what the stereotype's going to be on those 51? Oh, they came from Colorado. If Dion don't want them, why the hell did we want them? Man, this is where the coaches that look at these dudes, and now Jim Moore is dead right. This is a disservice because he can't get his hands on the film. What the hell is going on in Boulder? BK, I mean, this is absolute silliness. And really, the part Dion is disgracing the African American community by doing this stupidness. I mean, he is.
Hearing this, hearing this for the first time from for Jared and everything, I knew something was up with that. And hearing it, I've been kind of rooting things for Dion and trying to be a supporter. Right now, that's very disappointing what I'm hearing. Very, very disappointing. Because now you're rubbing people the wrong way. And that's what you don't want. You don't want to rub other people the wrong way. You don't want to do that. Anytime coaches are calling you out because you're not sending film to the kids, you basically, some told, get up out of here. Or some kids couldn't really handle the pressure or didn't want to play for the coach or prime, so they wanted to move on. But you can't do that. You can't hold them hostage like this. The transfer portal, and Deion Sanders should have known. This thing is wide open. You knew that when you took the job at Colorado, and you know it now. So for that, you know what I'm saying, you can't get by with whatever you can get by in the Pac-12. And not just Pac-12, in Division I football, period. So if you're going to compete, you need to bring in. Now it's almost like the pressure's on you more.
Yeah, you got to bring people in.
Now you got to bring people in, not just people in. You got to bring in the best. You got to bring in like not the. You got to bring a couple of threes, but you got to get a lot of 4-5 stars on your team. That's what it sounds like to me. I want to see more behind the scenes. I want to see more and try to get more facts into the thing. And seeing why, but to me, Deion Sanders needs to straighten this out. Like, I'm saying this because I admire what he's been doing as a player. Yeah, he was kind of egotistical, but he was a marketable person. Sometimes people got to do that to make their paper because people are always getting the short end of the stick because of the fact that, you know, you don't do what you can to make yourself marketable and everything else. You know, closed mouths don't get fed out here. So for him, I always admired him when he was a player and as a coach. But as a person who's a fan of Deion Sanders, please do me a favor. Release the film. Get right with some of these coaches. Get some things straight. Clarify why all this happened a bit so you can clear your name. Because it don't look good right now. It don't. You don't want to put more pressure on yourself as it is being the head coach of a major Division I program that's trying to turn it around. So I'm telling you now, you need to get it together because I know the head coach of Nebraska. He brushing that thing off and getting prepared for when they play each other. And I knowing that head coach himself, who's
Matt Rule.
Matt Rule. Thank you, Matt
Plus, he got
Rule.
Sonny Dykes' first game of the year. TCU.
Sonny Dykes. That ain't no game. There ain't no game when you go against TCU, and especially what they have back. So TCU ain't about to be no punk, and Nebraska ain't no punk. And the thing about Matt Rule has a lot of college experience, lot of experience in Division I college football.
What he did at Temple was phenomenal, and he brought Baylor back.
Exactly. Deion Sanders, are you ready for that smoke, that true smoke? Because I'm telling you now, they're gonna bring it to you, and they're gonna bring it to you hard. You better get it together. Get it together now.
Release the film, man. Please.
Look,
we want to see you
not
succeed. Don't hurt these kids.
Don't hurt the kids, but not just that overall. Not just release the film. Get things right with everything that's going on. Please clear your name. Get these kids the way they need to go at. Do what you did at Jackson State to some of the players who had transferred out your program. Do right, because I'm telling you now, if this continues, it's gonna bite you in the back, and it's gonna bite you in the back bad. I'm telling you this because I'm rooting for you personally, because it's time for people of African American descent to have that opportunity again. You know, to turn things around, because you have to think at the time. Like, some people might not like how they're satisfying the Caucasian folks of Colorado, but you don't understand how much African American people he then brought to the staff at Colorado that would never get an opportunity anywhere. Think about that. We have the right in this country for anybody. It don't matter what color descent to achieve dreams. I'm just tired of people keep saying that, all these. No. Our ancestors broke the backs for us, not just to have civil rights, but have the rights to have living anywhere in this country. So, plain and simple, Deion, please get this right, because you have done so much for Jackson State, and you have done so much for those people that you brought on staff at Colorado to give them opportunities. Do right by these kids and get things straight, please, because I'm telling you, it doesn't look good.
Well, everyone, thank y'all for tuning in. Man, that is our show.
Oh, man. So I guess we're going to have to put this other subject the next week.
Yeah, we're going to do it next week.
Yeah.
I got you next week.
Yeah.
It's 10 o'clock right now, 10:06. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We passed the time. We got an interesting, fun subject for y'all next week. I'm going to say that for you. It's about football movies. That would have been, it'd been good to talk about tonight, but the time that went on with it.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about it next week. It's interesting.
We'll talk about it next week. So thank y'all for tuning in. I want to thank Eric Asher for joining us, and definitely Coach Temeka Johnson for joining us. I want to thank my good friend George Peppers and my good friend BK Jones. I'm JB, your sports guy. We'll be back next week. Take care.